To conclude this section on assemblies, I want to address a common question that comes up among new SolidWorks users. The question has to do with taking a component such as this gasket and making sure that the holes line up with the holes of the housing below. How can you be sure that when you put these two components together, they'll match up perfectly? There are a couple of ways to do that. The obvious way is to design both components independently, being very careful that the dimensions used for one match up with the dimensions of the other. This approach relies entirely on the designer being very accurate and, of course, introduces the possibility of human error. Another, more robust approach to accomplishing this type of relationship between two parts is called top-down assembly design. Up to this point, the assemblies we've looked at have been put together using an approach called bottom-up assembly design. This simply means that the components used in the assembly were designed independently and simply assembled together using mates. Top-down assembly design, on the other hand, is when you design components, either partially or entirely in the context of an assembly. To help me explain this, take a look at this part. You can see that the first feature of the part is this base. Next, a thin wall is created. If we look at the sketch used for the wall, you can see that it has no dimensions. In fact, it was created using the Convert Entities command, which creates a perfect copy of this face. We saw earlier in the course how powerful Convert Entities can be, because if I go back and make a change to the base, the thin wall will update to reflect the change. This concept of borrowing information from one feature and using that information to define another feature can be extended to the assembly level, where it is called top-down design. Here, the sketch used to create this gasket is created by using the same Convert Entities command we just saw at the part level, except here I'm borrowing information from an entirely different component in the assembly. By doing this, I can be sure that if a change is made to this housing, the corresponding gasket will still fit perfectly. This topic of top-down assembly design is really outside of the scope of this introductory course, but I'll show you one simple example of how this is done.